That's a weather man. 908 just have to break. Okay, good morning, class, and we'll continue from where we ended yesterday. And I hope you had a good experience with our first class. So, it will be important for us to have a recap of what we did yesterday. So anybody can be able to type on the live chat section just to recap what we did yesterday. Okay. What did we cover What did we cover yesterday? So on the live chat section, you can want to get that. What did we cover yesterday? And hopefully you also read the material for yesterday. Okay. Being that as today, we started looking at the first function organization of the body, and then we started looking at the various functions, the various systems and their functions. So we'll continue from where we started yesterday. Okay. So we started with the first system, which was skin and appendix. Okay. So who can recall us, who can tell us about the functions of the skin and its appendages? Who can tell us about the functions of the skin and its appendages? Yeah. I want to see that holding in the light section. Functions of the skin and its appendages. Remember we mentioned the first. What are the functions of the skin? The ones we mentioned yesterday. Okay, so it regulates heart can also regulate water in the body either by losing or by conserving. Yeah. But again, okay, was saying to say it helps with body temperature regulation. So you've got to say it regulates body temperature. Okay. Uh, Stewart says provides mechanical protection against the underlying structures. Okay, it's very important the underlying tissues. Um, it provides mechanical support over mechanical protection. Okay, and it also prevents water loss from the body. That's already been indicated. What again? Okay, it's responsible for the prevention of the entry of microorganisms. Okay, that it serves as a physical barrier. Okay, what again? So we must have exhausted all the rules. Okay, then we went to the skeletal system. What did you say are the functions of the skeletal system? Beautiful, Davy says acts as a barrier against entry of microorganisms and other substances. That's beautiful. Okay, so the answers you've all recapped that perfectly well. So let's look at the next system, the skeletal system. Okay, what are the functions of the skeletal system? Okay, that's beautiful. Namunga listed the various appendages, the nails, the hair. They said, okay, you forgot to mention about the hair. So we have nails, hair, sebaceous, and what sweat glands, right? So Kinash says gives shape to the body. So the skeletal system gives what? Shape to the body. Okay. And Daka says for support. Okay. And Miriam says helps in body movement together with what? with the activities of the muscles, isn't it? Okay, helps with movement. If the muscles are beautiful. What again? One last function. Okay, what other function? Beautiful for the production of blood cells. Hematopoiesis, that's beautiful. I almost gave a 50 quarter prize for that, and you answered it before I gave it. So it's okay. So it's what? Blood production in long bones, okay? And so we can take the site for what? Hematopoiesis or hemopoiesis, okay? That's important, that's good. So today we continue with the next system, the muscle system, okay? The muscle system, okay? The muscle system. And so you could, we also mentioned yesterday about the difference between the ligaments and what? The tendon, isn't it? Okay? So we mentioned about the difference between the ligament and the tendon. So what is the difference between the ligament and the tendon? Okay, at least I got the answer from the classes today, so let me get it from the live chat today. The difference between what? Ligament and tendon. I'm waiting for the answer. It's simple. It was answered yesterday and we spoke about it. But then I want to have an echo from the class. Okay? So what's the difference between a ligament and a tendon? Okay. Carbo says ligament is bone to bone, tendon is bone to muscle. What is it? It's just a bone to bone, okay? It's a connective tissue. Okay, so you have to present it's a connective tissue that what connects bone to bone, and the tendon is what? A connective tissue that what connects what? Muscle to bone, okay? And I'm sure you'll do that in detail when you come to histology and anatomy. Okay, that's beautiful. Okay, please don't miss out on these little things we're discussing. Okay, in this repetition, you'll be able to understand. And hope you are following. I want to believe that you are following the class wherever you are with a pen and a paper. Okay, don't assume that you have to wait for some time to watch the video again. It could be boring later on. Okay, yeah. So make sure you have a pen, not even a paper, please, a notebook. Okay, a notebook. Some slight comments you're making, so you begin to jot them there. Okay, and you find the class interesting. Okay, so far so good. Moving. So we're talking about the muscle system. Okay, so what is the muscle system? You say it overlies and usually it's attached to bones, isn't it? So it overlies and attaches, and usually attaches what? To the bone. Okay. And so muscles are composed of many elongated cells called muscle fibers. Okay. Yeah. They are composed of what? Many elongated cells called what? Muscle fibers. Okay. Remember, but this is just an introduction. Okay. In all these systems, the whole of your program in the preclinicals, we will take each system in turn. Okay. We will take each system and discuss in detail. So we are saying that muscles are composed of many elongated cells, and we call those cells what? Muscle fibers. Okay. And what is the function of these muscle fibers? They contract and relax. Okay? And together with the coordinated activity of the joints and the bones, they what? They move. Okay? Okay? So what? They contract and they relax. So the general function of muscle is what? Contraction and relaxation. Now, depending on whatever the type of muscle, then we can now be able to say the specific function. But the basic and fundamental function of the muscle fiber is what? Contraction and what? Relaxation. Okay? And then we have three types of muscles. Okay? We have the skeletal muscle. We have the skeletal muscle. We have the cardiac muscle, and then we have what? The smooth muscle. Okay? So we have three types of of muscle. Okay, Musengo says, so can you please repeat the definition of the muscle? In itself, we're not trying to define the muscle, but we are saying that what? The muscle is composed or comprises what? Elongated cells called what? Muscle fibers. Okay, so we said the muscle comprises what? Elongated cells called what? Muscle fibers. And when we come to nerve and muscle, we'll deal with them detailedly. Okay, we are just introducing. Okay, and we said the basic and the underlying function of muscles is what? Contraction and what? Relaxation. Okay, so the fundamental, the underlying, the first principal function of muscle is what? Contraction and relaxation. Okay, and we say we have three types of what? Of muscle. We have the skeletal muscle, we have the cardiac muscle, and we have what? We have the smooth muscle. Okay, from the word skeletal muscle, you know that what? It is majorly attached to what? To the skeleton. Okay, so we have the skeletal muscle. And then the cardiac muscle is the muscle that is found exclusively where? In the heart. Okay, the cardiac muscle is found exclusively where? In the heart. Okay, so the cardiac muscle is found exclusively where? In the heart. And then we have the smooth muscle. Okay, and so the smooth muscle is found lying in what? Internal organs. Okay, it's found lining what? It's found lining internal organs or found in internal organs. Let's not say lining. It's found in internal organs. Okay, internal organs, blood vessels. Okay, hollow organs. And then when we come to muscles, we'll look at the details of what? Of these muscles. Okay. So where did we say we have skeletal muscles? First and foremost, list for us what the three types of muscles. Okay. What are the three types of muscles? What are the three types of muscles? This answer will be popping up like corn, isn't it? So we have the skeletal muscle, we have the smooth muscle, and what? Cardiac muscle, isn't it? Okay, and where did I say we have the skeletal muscle? Where do we find the skeletal muscle? Beautiful. Okay. Let the answers keep coming. Okay, they are all correct. So where do we have the skeletal muscle? Attached to the skeleton, isn't it? Okay, that's beautiful. Katongo says what? The skeletal muscle is attached to where? To the skeleton. Okay? And so you can begin to imagine the functions and the things you will be able to do. Okay? Contraction, relaxation for movement. And another one we could say it generates heat. Okay? Okay? When you contract it, what? Also it helps what? Heat generation. That helps in maintaining the better metabolic rate. Okay? So we'll look at that when we come to details. So where do we say we have, if we can find the cardiac muscle? Where do we say we can find the cardiac muscle? In the heart, okay? We have the cardiac muscles where? In the heart. And what of the smooth muscle? Found in what? Internal organs, hollow organs, okay? In the intestines, in the blood vessels, in the urethra, in the urinary bladder, in the uterus, in fallopian tube. So those are hollow organs. These are organs that have what? More or less like a hollow, like a tube, isn't it? Okay. But when we come into detail, yeah. So we'll find the what? The internal organs. Patricia, in the heart, which of them are you talking about? Is it the smooth muscle or the cardiac muscle? Okay. Okay. So I hope we are following, isn't it? Okay, so let's get to the next system, the nervous system. Okay. We'll talk about what? The nervous system, isn't it? Okay. So the nervous system is made up predominantly of tissue that has specialized property. Okay, so the nervous system is made of So the nervous tissue or the nervous system is made up predominantly of tissue that has the special property of being able to conduct impulses rapidly from one part of the body to another. So the nervous system has a specialized tissue that is able to conduct impulses. Okay, so you have heard of the word what? Conduct what? Impulses. Conduct what? Impulses. So it has specialized tissue that conducts impulses from one part of the body to what? To another. Okay. So if I touch you, you're able to feel that touch. Actually, what you're feeling is not here. The thing is here. Okay. So why are you feeling the touch? Because there are some specialized cells that keep the sensation, take it to the brain interprets that somebody is touching me, sends back the signal to the skin, and you're able to feel that touch. Okay? So that is the nervous system. Okay? And so the specialized cells that constitute the functional unit of the nervous system are called what? Neurons. Okay? The specialized cells that constitute the functional unit of the nervous system are called what? Neurons. Okay, they are called what? Neurons. And neurons are divided, or the nervous system may be divided into two. I don't want to talk about neurons now. The nervous system may be divided into two. Please follow me keenly. The nervous system may be divided into two. The nervous system may be divided into two. Okay. Please follow keenly. Okay. Now, so we have here the nervous system. Okay, that is the nervous system. Follow me keenly. Okay. So we have the nervous system. And so the nervous system first is divided into one called the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Okay. So the nervous system is divided into what we call what? The central nervous system and what? The peripheral nervous system. Are we together? Okay. So we're talking about the nervous system. It's comprised of specialized tissue that conducts impulses from one place to the other. Okay? And then we said what? The functional unit of the nervous system is what? Neurons. Okay? And we have different types of neurons, but we'll come to that in the next topic that will be handled by my colleague. So the nervous system is divided into two. We have the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Now, what is the central nervous system? The system is in the center, okay? It's in the center. And what is in the center? Your brain and your spinal cord. Okay? So we have what? The central nervous system. Okay, Dennis, yes, I said peripheral nervous system. Not with the F, but with the PH. Okay? Peripheral nervous system with what? PH. Okay? So you have what? So you have the central nervous system and what? The peripheral nervous system. So what is in the center? The brain and the spinal cord. So the central nervous system is made of what? The brain and what? Spinal cord. Okay. We said yesterday that somebody was able to describe the space in the spinal canal, the spinal canal. Who was that? Huh? Jen Fennel, okay, was able to describe what? The spinal canal, isn't it? And so we have the central nervous system, what? The brain and what? The spinal cord. Let's take it as that. We go further, okay? We go further, the brain is sort of the cerebral cortex, the cerebrum, the basal ganglia, and other structures. Okay, but then we'll deal with that in video. So we have the central nervous system of the brain and what? The spinal cord. And anything that arises from the central nervous system and goes to the periphery constitutes what we call what? The peripheral nervous system. Okay? Whatever arises from the center and goes to the periphery, or whatever leaves the periphery to the center, is what? Comprises what? The peripheral nervous system. Okay? So we could say that the peripheral nervous system is divided into what? And a motor and a sensory. Okay? A motor nervous system and what? A sensory nervous system. And then these nerves that arise from the peripheral nervous system could either be what we call autonomic. What do you say? I'm forgetting that I'm introducing this concept. So half the nervous system is divided into what? The central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. Okay? And then the central nervous system is divided into what? The brain and what? The spinal cord. So we have the central nervous system divided into what? The brain and the spinal cord. And so whatever leaves the central nervous system to the periphery or leaves the periphery to the central nervous system constitutes what we call the peripheral nervous system. Okay? The peripheral means the outskirts, isn't it? Okay, and so the peripheral nervous system can be divided into the motor nervous system and the sensory nervous system. Okay, now it can be divided. The peripheral nervous system is divided into the motor nervous system and what? The sensory nervous system. So it's the peripheral nervous system is divided into the motor and the sensory, or you can say the afferent and the efferent. Okay. The afferent, which is the sensory, and the efferent, which is the motor. Okay, so the peripheral nervous system can be divided into what? The motor nervous system and the what? The sensory nervous system. Okay, or the afferent. Okay, and the efferent. So the PNS is divided into which is sensory, and efferent, which is what? Motor. Okay. So the PNS, the peripheral nervous system, is divided into what? Into the afferent, which is the sensory. Afferent means it's taking it to. Efferent means away. So you must be this American terminology that guides you. When your A means to, E is away. So you have afferent towards the central nervous system. Efferent is away from the nervous system. Okay? So afferent, that is with A, double F-A-R-E-N-T. Afferent is what? Towards. Then towards. Okay? And then efferent is what? Away. Okay? So the peripheral nervous system is divided into the afferent and what? The efferent. Okay? And we say the afferent is sensory and the efferent is what? Motor. Afferent takes sensations. When we hear sensory system, it picks up sensations from the body and takes them to what? To the central nervous system. So the sensory system picks what? Sensations and take them where? Into to the central nervous system. While the efferent, the motor, takes what? Responses. Okay? The efferent takes what? Responses from the central nervous system to the periphery or to the structures. Okay? And so this efferent, which is the motor, can also be divided into two types. Okay? So we have the voluntary system and the autonomic or what? Involuntary system. Okay? So the efferent, which is the motor, is further divided into what? The voluntary system and what? The autonomic or the involuntary system. Okay? The voluntary system and the autonomic or what? The involuntary system. The voluntary system supplies what? The skeletal muscles. The voluntary system supplies what? The skeletal muscles. Okay? Katongo, next time you use the word please. What are the two subdivisions of the efferent? Okay, the two subdivisions of the efferent are the voluntary system and the involuntary or the autonomic system, right? Okay, beautiful. What it says, the voluntary system, okay, if he's asking, can the voluntary system be called a somatic system? Of course. Okay, the voluntary system is also called what? The somatic system. Soma means the body, the cell. Okay, so the voluntary system is also called what? The somatic system. Okay. And so we said the efferent. I've noted you. What is that? This person's name. This is standing. You're rude and arrogant from yesterday. I've taught you be polite when you are be cautious when you're asking a question, okay, or when you're making a remark. So the voluntary system is also called what? The somatic system and supplies what? The skeletal muscles, okay. And so the involuntary or the autonomic is further subdivided into two: the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Okay, the autonomic system is further subdivided into the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Parasympathetic, so the autonomic system is subdivided into what? Parasympathetic. Parasympathetic sympathetic system. And the autonomic nervous system basically supplies the glands, the smooth muscles, and blood vessels. Okay? It supplies the cardiac muscle, the smooth muscle, the glands, and blood vessels. Okay? Pardon? Okay, so the autonomic nervous system supplies the cardiac muscle, the smooth muscle, and the glands, and what? The blood vessels. Okay? The glands and the blood vessels. Okay? This we are giving introductions. Okay? As we proceed and continue, we'll be broadening them, right? So let's look at the cardiovascular system. The cardiovascular system. The cardiovascular system. Please, before we go to the cardiovascular system, can someone just recap to us the classification or the subdivisions of the nervous system? Okay? Yes. How do we flow? What are the subdivisions of the nervous system? We said the nervous system comprises two systems. What are they? So we said the nervous system comprises what? The CNS and what? The PNS. Okay? Katongo, so what makes up the voluntary system is actually the voluntary system is the somatic system. It only supplies what? The skeletal muscle. Okay? So the voluntary system or the somatic system supplies what? The skeletal muscle. Okay? Roger and Bright, that's beautiful. Okay? They said you said the nervous system is divided into the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. That's beautiful. And Richard is asking what does the sympathetic nervous system supply? It's not where, it should be what. Okay? And so what does the sympathetic nervous system supply, please? Okay? So what does it supply? You say it's not. No. The question should be, what does the autonomic nervous system supply? Okay? Let's not get to the details of the sympathetic, but then what does the autonomic nervous system supply? And I said the cardiac muscles, the smooth muscles, the glands, and what? The blood vessels. Okay? And then we're talking about the divisions. Okay, so talk about the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. So what are the subdivisions of the central nervous system? What are the subdivisions of the central nervous system? Okay, take a break. Take a deep breath and think and listen to the question.
The central nervous system is made up of the sensory nervous system.
Now, so one of the central nervous system. Yeah, so the central, whatever is happening in the center, that's what it's called the central nervous system. Okay? So that's great. So when you get the central nervous system, the center, what is in the center? What do you find in the center? Your brain and what? Your spinal cord. Okay? So what about the peripheral nervous system? The peripheral nervous system? Yes, it's number what? The peripheral nervous system is number what? The sensory and what? The motor. Or the afferent and what? The efferent. Okay? And what did we say was the afferent? Two words. Yes, towards the central nervous system. Okay? So the afferent is towards the central nervous system. And the efferent is away. Okay? So we have, and what gets to the central nervous system from the periphery is what we call the sensory nervous system. or the sensory system. Why? It's picking up sensations, cold, heat, temperature, touch, pressure, pain, blood pressure, whatever. So it's picking up sensations to the what? To the central nervous system. And then the central nervous system will integrate. For example, if I take a hammer or a patella hammer and hit your probably your patella, you will reflect. There will be a reflex, isn't it? So that touch and that is just so it's a reflex act. So the information gets to your spinal cord, it integrates it, and quickly a response is sent to the skeletal muscle. Remove your leg from there. You get the point. So we have the sensory that picks up the sensation, and then the motor brings what the response. Okay, and we said the motor supplies what? What does the motor, the nervous system, what does it supply? So we thought this motor nervous system is divided into two. What is it? What are the subdivisions of the subclassifications of the motor nervous system? What are the subclassifications of the motor nervous system? Yes, the voluntary and what? The autonomic. Okay, the voluntary and what? The involuntary. Okay, and the voluntary supplies what? What does the voluntary supply? The skeletal muscles, isn't it? Yes. So of course, and remember another name for the skeletal muscles is what? The voluntary muscles. Okay, another name for the skeletal muscles is what? The voluntary muscles. Okay. So and then the autonomic is further subdivided into what? Is further divided into.
The autonomic is further divided into parasympathetic.
Sympathetic. So the autonomic is further divided into what? The parasympathetic and what? The sympathetic. Okay. And then what do they supply? They supply those things. Okay, let's move on to the next system, the cardiovascular system. Since I'm quite slow today, it's not helping. So the cardiovascular system, you hear of the cardiovascular, cardio and vascular. Okay. So the cardiovascular system is made of two components, the heart and the blood vessels. Okay. So each time you hear of something card, C-A-R-D, or cardio, think of what? The heart. Okay. When you hear of vascular, think of what? Vessels. Vessels. Okay. So have the cardiovascular system is the system of what? The heart and the blood vessels. Cardi means what? Heart. Pertains to the heart. Okay. Vascular what? Vessels. Tubes. Pipes. Okay. So the cardiovascular system consists of what? The heart and blood vessels. Okay. And the blood vessels take blood away from or to the heart. Okay. Remember, we have the circulatory system of the mammals, the high mammals. What is a closed circulatory system. Okay. And we have us is that of what? A 4-chamber heart. Okay. That of a frog is what? Is it a 3-chamber heart? Is it biology? And that of the, is it a fish? Is it a 2-chamber? You didn't do biology. Or you didn't do this part. Okay. So we have blood vessels that take blood away from the heart to various tissues. We are looking at the cardiovascular. Okay. All the things to eat on the even if you take a drug, or you're taking oxygen, or you're taking a nice food that you take, for it to reach the tissues, it must be carried by the blood. There must be something that conducts it, but there must be that transport it. And that happens in blood. But how does the blood move from one place to the other? There must be a force moving that fluid. Okay? Even if you have your Ndola water something fluid or something like that, there is a place where there's a tank and it's being pumped through pipes to houses, isn't it? So the heart is that pump. It's a mechanical pump. Okay, it pumps blood to the various tissues. And how does it pump blood? It pumps blood by contracting, and this blood moves through what? Through pipes. Okay, in the human being, blood doesn't come in contact with the cell. Blood is confined where? In the blood vessels. Okay, so we have blood being pumped by the heart to where to the tissues. Okay, and we'll look at that when we're dealing with blood. Okay, so there are different types of blood vessels, but majorly we have arteries, we have capillaries, and then we have what? You have veins. Okay, so we have, but then when we come to cardiovascular system, we will tell you the subdivision. There are still further. Okay, so there are still further subdivisions. Okay, so but majorly we have what? The arteries that carry blood away from the heart, the capillaries where you have exchange of substances, and the veins that carry blood to the heart. Of course, we have a what? We have exception. Okay, we have exception, isn't it? The pulmonary artery and the pulmonary vein. Okay, and then so we have arteries, capillaries, and what? Veins. And capillaries are quite important because this is the site of what? Tissue exchange. Okay, tissue exchange, or one called tissue fluid exchange, occurs where? Occurs in the capillary. Or fluid exchange occurs where? In the capillaries. Okay, exchange of various substances between the blood and the tissues takes place where? In the walls of the capillaries. Okay. Now let me just contextually put this in perspective so that you will be able to see. So you have this is your heart. Okay. So let's look at this. This is your muscle. Let's say this is your muscle here. You want to do some sports and you need energy for the muscle to contract. So food must be taken, glucose must be taken, either to the liver or to the muscle. But then that it must only be transported in blood. So the heart pumps blood, and that blood is transported by what? By the blood vessel. Okay? And because inside the blood you have many components, many substances. So here you have, within this muscle, you have capillaries. So the exchange of fluids or substances occurs where? At the level of the capillary. Okay? And then from the tissues, the veins arise and take blood back to what? Back to the heart. Okay? Now, and so we have the three major vessels are what? The arteries, or the three types of vessels are what? The arteries, the veins, the arteries, the capillaries, and what? The veins. And so we have exchange of course where? In the capillaries. And so depending on the organ, you could have different types of capillaries. Okay? We'll look at that in detail. I'm sure you do that even in histology. So you have fenestrated capillaries, you have sinusoidal capillaries, in a sense. And then you have different parts. Okay? You have fenestrated, non-fenestrated, you have sinusoidal. Okay? So we'll come to that in detail as we proceed. Okay? Then the next system is what? The respiratory system. So what do you think are the components of the respiratory system? The lungs, yeah. And the what? Okay. Not too bad away from it. So it says the lungs and the passages through which air reaches and gets out of the lungs. Okay? So we're now talking about what? The nasal cavities, the pharynx, the trachea, the bronchi, and the other structures. Okay? So we're talking about the components of the lungs. Okay? The components of the respiratory system. Sorry. The components of the respiratory system. Okay. Okay, it consists, carbohydrates consists of the lungs and the passage fluid enriches them and it goes out. So basically, the respiratory system consists of what? The lungs, and then those passages talk about the nasal cavity, the nasal cavity, the pharynx, the pharynx, you have the trachea, the bronchi, you have the trachea, the bronchi, so we have the trachea, the bronchi, and the other ones is mentioned, okay? And so what do you think is the major function of the respiratory system? For taking in, for gaseous exchange, okay? For taking in air or oxygen and giving our carbon dioxide. But it's quite broader and bigger than you think, okay? We'll come to that, okay? So the digestive system is also called what? The alimentary canal. The digestive system is also called what? The alimentary canal. And includes all the structures that are concerned with eating and with digestion and absorption of food, okay? And are concerned with all, or includes all the structures that are concerned with eating, with digestion and absorption of food, okay? So you will now know that what it starts from the mouth and ends where? In the anus. So it starts from the mouth and ends in the anus. Okay. So the alimentary canal includes the oral cavity. So the alimentary canal includes the oral cavity, the pharynx. So that the alimentary canal or the digestive system includes what? The oral cavity, the pharynx, the pharynx, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small intestine, the large intestine, so what do these are the structures? The what? The oral cavity, the pharynx, the esophagus, the stomach, the small, the small and the large intestine, isn't it? And it also contains other structures that are called accessories. Okay, they are accessory structures to the digestive system. So who can mention to us the accessory structures to the digestive system? These are structures that are important for the process of digestion and absorption of food. have the pancreas, the gallbladder. You have left the liver out of it. So we have the liver, so we have the liver, the gallbladder, and what? The pancreas. So the next system is what? The excretory system. The excretory system, the renal system, the urinary system, yeah, and some sort of somehow words used. To have the excretory system. Okay. So what is excretion? What is excretion? Okay, yeah. Excretion is the removal of waste products of metabolism from the body. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So it's what? Excretion is what? The removal of waste products of metabolism from the body. Is defecation excretion? Is defecation excretion? What is another word for defecation? Huh? Egestion, isn't it? Egestion. We have egestion. So is defecation excretion? Why?
For excretion, this is the removal of waste metabolism substance. Like when we are digesting, you're removing the undigested bacteria out of the system.
Okay, that makes some sense. But one thing you should also know that from the mouth to the anus is not considered inside the body. Okay, it's not yet considered inside the body, so to speak. It may sound so untrue and not fair, right? Or the food that is in your stomach hasn't entered your system until it's absorbed. Okay? So the food that hasn't entered your stomach, or that is in your stomach or in your intestine, is not in your body or until it is absorbed. Yeah. So the food that hasn't entered, that you haven't absorbed, it's not yet yours. Okay? So it's most often considered that from the mouth to the anus, it's not yet inside your body, so to speak. Okay? In other words. Okay? Just the same like air that has not entered your blood and remains in your lungs is not useful to you. Oh yes. Okay. If you cannot absorb food, what use is it to eat apart from just to stimulate your taste bud? Okay. Okay. So just as we said, so removal of undigested food from the gut okay, from the gut is not regarded as excretion because the material taken into the gut through the mouth is not made by the body itself. You understand? So the material taken into the gut through the mouth is not made by the body itself. So it's not a product of metabolism. Okay? It's not a product of metabolism. Other organs forming the excretory system. What do you think are the other organs that form the excretory system? Okay, the skin. But the major is which one? The kidneys. Okay, the kidneys, the ureter, the bladder, the urethra, the skin. Okay, the skin. Even yeah, of course, the skin and its okay. Even sometimes waste products that can be also excreted through hair. Okay, even through the breath. Okay, through the respiratory system, even through the GIT from the liver. Okay, so we'll come to that in the future. Okay. Then we have the reproductive system. And what is reproduction? It's what the production of a new generation of individuals of the same species. Okay. So it involves the transmission of genetic material from one generation to the next. And then this voidia. So can you list for me the components of the male reproductive organs? Voidia carboy. Okay. Can you list for me the components of the male reproductive organs? Okay, Piri is saying that he read somewhere that the skin is not completely an excretory organ because its excretions are as a result of temperature changes. Um, I don't want to say I want to differ, but then I think it would always depend on the perspective of who was writing that. Um, every form of excretion is as a result of some change, okay? And just for example, we could even say the breast milk is a form of it's an excretory fluid. Huh? Besides containing nutrients, it also contains also heavy metals that are being excreted. Okay, so it is not it may not be the major excretory organ, but then it's an excretory route. Okay, but an excretory route. So I asked this, I think Walia Cabre, I remember I picked out the name, to list for me the components of the male reproductive organs. Okay. So he's mentioned that the components of the male reproductive organs are the testes, the epididymis, the ductus deferens, the seminal vesicles, the prostate, the male urethra, and the penis. Okay. And so the female reproductive organs are the ovaries, the uterine tubes, the uterus, the vagina, the external genitalia, and the mammary gland. Okay. So the next system is the endocrine system. So the endocrine system is made up essentially of cells that produce secretions that are poured into directly into the blood. Okay. And so the secretions of the endocrine cells are called what? Hormones, isn't it? They are called hormones. So the secretions of the endocrine cells are called what? Hormones. Okay. And so we have endocrine organs, we have endocrine glands, and we have cells or tissues that function as an endocrine tissue. So we have like more or less like 9 major endocrine glands. Okay. And we have the so we can list for me some endocrine glands. We have the endocrine system consists of the pituitary gland, the adrenal gland, you have the adrenal gland, you have the thyroid gland. What other gland? So you have the pituitary gland in the brain, below the hypothalamus. So you have the adrenal gland or the suprarenal gland above the kidneys. So you have the thyroid gland here. And so we have the pancreas. Okay. You have the pancreas. You have the ovaries and the testes. You have the ovaries and the testes. Tell me, please, what does the endocrine system do? It secretes chemical substances called hormones, and then these hormones are the ones that affect the changes, okay? And so they bring about several changes. Yeah, it's quite broad, okay? Okay. So P says the pineal gland, and look at testis, ovary, pancreas, pineal gland. Okay. So we've mentioned, so one is if I ask you to list the endocrine glands, I'm not talking about endocrine organs, endocrine glands, you start on the head going down, be able to picture that quickly. Okay, so you have the pituitary, the pituitary gland, you have the pineal gland, then you come down, you have what? You have the thyroid gland. You go to the heart, or above the heart, there's you have the thymus gland, you have the thymus. You have the thymus gland. Go down a little bit, you have what? You have the pancreas, okay? And then just around within that area, you have what? The suprarenal gland or the what? Or the adrenal gland. So you have the suprarenal gland or what? Or the adrenal gland. Then a little bit down, you have what? The testes and what? The ovaries. Okay? So besides that, you also have endocrine organs and endocrine tissues, but then we'll come to see that this is one of the endocrine system. So the last but not the least system is what? Blood and the immune system. Okay. blood and immune system. And so we look at blood is a specialized connective tissue. Blood is a specialized connective tissue. And it comprises what? It comprises a fluid. It comprises of plasma and blood cells. Okay, it comprises of plasma and what? And blood cells. There is a connective tissue, it's a specialized connective tissue, and it forms a sense of connect all the other tissues together to each component. And it comprises blood and what? It comprises what? Plasma and what? And blood cells. Okay, it comprises plasma and blood cells. What is the difference between endocrine and exocrine? Of course, it's what? One is the ductless gland, and the other one has ducts. The endocrine glands are what? They are ductless. They shed their secretion directly into blood, and is transported into what? To distant organs or to distant targets. So with endocrine glands, these are ductless glands. They lack ducts. They don't have ducts. Okay, they are ductless glands. Okay, that secrete their chemical substance directly into blood and is transported to target organs where they exert their function. Therefore, exocrine glands, they have ducts, okay, and they secrete within their vicinity, okay, within the body fluid around them, okay, yeah. Mainly the salivary gland, the exocrine part of the pancreas. Okay, the salivary glands are an example. Even the sweat gland. So we have three types of cells in the blood. We have the red blood cells, the white blood cells, and the platelets. Okay, so the red blood cells are called what? Erythrocytes. So we have three types of cells in the blood. We have what? The red blood cells.
I thought there is no one.
You have erythrocytes, and then you have the white blood cells. You call them what? The leukocytes.
Sorry?
No, not the
Oh, okay.
You have the leukocytes, and then you have platelets, thrombocytes. So we have three types of cells. We have what? The red blood cells or what? The erythrocytes. We have the white blood cells or the leukocytes. And then we have the platelets or what? The thrombocytes. Okay? Or the thrombocytes. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? So Chomba is asking a question. So what do you call the process of formation of red cells and white cells? Who can answer that? We'll come to that, but then the process is generally called what? Chemopoiesis, okay? Called what? Chemopoiesis. Formation of that cell. Chemo what? Chemopoiesis. It's a general term. Okay, chemopoiesis. Chemopoiesis. Okay. Chemopoiesis. General. So for red blood cells, it's erythropoiesis. For white blood cells, it's erythropoiesis. Okay. So far we are keep telling you until you learn to be polite. So what the three blood cells are what? He said, by the way, that's not even English, isn't it? What are the three blood cells? Please, what are the three blood cells? Okay, Charles is come again one on that. Okay, I believe you are talking about the last thing I mentioned. But then I don't know from where. But I said we have three kinds of blood cells. You said you have what? The red blood cells. Okay, or what? The erythrocytes. Okay, you have what? The white blood cells, or what? The leukocytes. And then you have what? The platelets, or what? Thrombocytes. And then somebody was asking what do we call the process of formation of red and white blood cells? So I said, generally the term for blood cell formation is called what? Hemopoiesis. Okay? But now if you get to, for red blood cells, it will be called what? Erythropoiesis. For white blood cells, it will be called what? Leukopoiesis. And what for platelets, what? Thrombopoiesis. Okay? So we move on to something else, and that is look at the topic. The body fluid. The body fluid. I failed, class, if I failed to get your email, and I've sent the outline to you. I've sent it for year 3. So remind me to send it so that those who have been clamoring for outline, to have it, whether they want to make use of it. To have the body fluid, okay? We're looking about total body water. So it's all about the total body water and distribution. Okay? This is an important topic. Please, I want to let me have your attention, everyone. Gideon, you just joined now. Where did you go to the farm this morning? We are done with the system. We did only 2 yesterday, right? So we've done 8. Nothing much. Okay. Kelly Chombas. Is erythropoietin a hormone? Yes, it's a hormone. Yeah, produced from the kidneys. But we'll come to that. Okay. So look at what? Total body water. Okay. When I said total body water, what came to your mind? When I say total body water, what comes to your mind? Why are you laughing? Huh? Because it's science now, it must be something so tiny, it must be something like a rocket science. You've got to relieve yourself of unnecessary tension. You start with what you know to what you don't know. Total body water, the total amount of water in the body. Therefore, okay? So we are talking about what? The total body water and its distribution. You understand? The total amount of water in your body and how it is distributed. This is an interesting and a fundamental topic. I want to get your attention. Yeah. Sylvester says what? Total body water is the total amount of water contained in the body. You understand? So that is total body water. Okay? That's just it's English, by the way. There's nothing scientific about it. Okay? So that is the total amount of water that is contained in the body. I want you to understand this concept we'll be discussing. It will influence so many things. Okay? So please, let me get your attention. And unfortunately, I only have 145 for attending the class. And these are the people who will now come and ask me, do you set exam to fail students? And when around 100 and something are not in class by assumption, it could be that two people are using one device, but then by assumption 100 and so. So you when you fail, you said you failed. Okay. And please, the material we did yesterday, don't let it develop fungi. Stick to it a day at giving yourself attention to this material. Please, don't allow it to fire. Sooner or later, you begin to wonder where did we start from and where are we? You're just going bit by bit and it's like we are joking and we are building. Okay? Precept upon precept, one stone upon another. And before you know the building is up and you begin to wonder where did we start from? Okay? So please don't undermine this, okay? So we are building upon this. And learn to dedicate enough time in study. Okay? You can be at home now and after you are just sleeping and say there is no work. There is work already. So once the lecturer gives you an outline, you can't say there is no work again. And so that's the downside of having an outline. You can't claim ignorance. You get the point? You can't claim ignorance. Okay, so you've got to be and if you make sure I've got to study 4 or 5 hours at least in a day. Okay, get up in the midnight or what you invested and you sit on your book until you know the thing. Okay, this is the time now given for the textbooks that are available. You sit on them, look at them, even go on internet, get more material, and when you are trying to Google, what you do is what lecture notes on this. Don't just type the topic. You get some scientific facts that will confuse you. So you want to get lecture notes that have been used in this same topic in other schools. So you can type lecture notes on body fluids. Okay? And then notes will come because there's material for teaching, there's material for research. Okay, so you do that. And so that's how I learn. That's why sometimes I cannot quickly fix myself to a textbook. I might be using a textbook and you have that textbook before you know I have switched. And so I keep on confusing you. Okay, we're looking at total body water, and some of the semester rightly defined it as the total amount of water contained in the body. Okay, and then last but not least, the percentage of water in the body. You started well, but you ended up you can't say percentage of water in the body. You understand? Yes, you can't say percentage of water in the body. Okay, so if you say percentage of water in the body, because the body itself is what is water. Okay, so but then Lazarus put it so simply well is the total amount of water contained where in the body. But then how do we know this? How much can we say is containing that is found? How much water can we say is found in your body? Okay, so it says except in adult male weighing average is 70 kg, 60% of the body weight is water. Okay, so in an average adult male, 60% of the body is made up of what? Of water. So 60% of the body weight in adult males is made of what? Water. And in females, 51%, in young adult males, 51% is made of what? Of water. That's 51% of the body weight. And then in obese individuals, 45% is made of what? Of water. And so let me see. Rhoda Nalondwa. I don't know whether you're female or male, but the person asked a question which said I missed. Sorry, please, I didn't see. I just now I was trying to scroll and I saw the appendix used in the digestive system. It's quite an interesting organ, and there was a time I was just doing a small reading on it about the functions, the useful functions of the appendix. Also, more or less, sometimes has been looked upon as even as an immune organ, an organ that takes part in immune system. Okay, so please, just put that. This is the first one first. These 5 functions of the appendix. Okay, thank you, Nalondo Arodo. I didn't just see it. now I'm seeing it, and because I wanted to look at who to answer a question. So please, 5. I think I still have those details somewhere. So want people who have been participating. Okay. So Boalia, what is your weight? What is your weight? And what is your weight? If you type it here, and then Marian Mulenga. Okay, what is your own weight? So from there, so that we can be able to calculate your total body water. Okay. So I've asked Boalia Kabwe, I've asked Marian Mulenga, I'm asking Mayaka Piri, and Karen Kapondi. What are your weights? Okay, you put them here, and then we discuss that. So I've asked 4 people, what are your weights? Okay, so that we can be able to calculate what the total body water. We said for young adult males, is what 60% of their body weight is what? Water. For young adult females, 51%. Okay, remember this is a figure, but then when you read some materials, will give you a range. Okay, they'll say 50 to 55%. Okay, these are ranges. There's no one size fit all, isn't it? So it's the ranges. Okay. Okay, Mayaka P says 55 kg, and Karen says 40 kg. So by that, I will know that Karen is a female. And the Boalia Kabwe, from that, I will want to think you are a female. Isn't it? Okay. Charles, okay, female, male. Look at all, could be sizable female. Okay, so now from here, in any case, so Marian Mulenga, I thought the name looks like a female, and now I'm seeing the weight. Anyway, let's not get into that. So we look at, Marian, can you calculate your body, your total body water? And Piri, can you calculate your total body water? The same with Kabwe and what? Karen and Piri. Okay, I'm having 2 Piris. Okay, Charles and Mayaka. So may you come again on the amount of water in female adults. We said it's 51%. Okay, 51%. But then remember, this is a range. So we say averages. Okay, averages 51%. So for those who have listed their body weight, can you calculate your body water, your total body water? Okay, the participating is important. Okay, when I give it in a test, you say we have never seen this. Okay, do that quickly. Richard said the weight is measured in Newton. I'm sure you are still having an intoxication on the physics you did. Weight is measured in kilograms. Okay, I'm not repeating your Newtons, but I'm familiar with kilograms, right? So for what is your total body water? It's simple arithmetic. Okay. Kevin, no. Your total body water cannot be 60. And then if you say 60 KY, I'm wondering, I need to see your results for year 1. Did you do chemistry? You did chemistry. And you are putting water with KY. I'm sure you want to say kilograms. Water cannot be measured in kilograms. So I have to speak. Isn't it? It's in volume, isn't it? So it should be in liters. So Marian, you have 32.13 liters. It's water, it's free. So it's a volume, isn't it? So you have 32.13 liters. And Piri, you have 21 liters. Okay. So the understanding there is that what you take the percentage of your weight, isn't it? 60% of your weight, 51% of your weight. The other one was what? 45. So why do we think that obese person, just 45% of their body weight comprises water?
The number of parts in the body that they doesn't have put the body.
Why I think the fat will reduce the water? If you add more spaces, then you have more water, isn't it? Where is the water? Okay. I asked a question here that why should obese persons have a smaller percentage of their body made of water? And one of the class reps mentioned is because what they have more fat cells. Okay. So, but and I don't want to just analyze the answer, but the question is why should more fat cells mean that less water? Theory, yes. What you have said, you have just stated the question. You understand? Because adipose tissue has less water. Why does adipose tissue have less water? You understand? You just stated the question. That's correct. Adipose tissue has less water.
I think because look at fat, they are isolated.
That's just, yeah, you're following. Getting immiscible with water, isn't it? Fat is immiscible with water. Okay? Fat is what? Immiscible with water. You cannot mix water and oil, isn't it? So the more oil you have, the less water you have. So to speak. They cannot be mixed, isn't it? Of course. Okay, let's assume that this our fellow is 70 kg and it's a young girl. Okay? So if this guy is 70 kg, you said 60% of 70 kg will what? 42 liters. Are we together? Now this is just like you have water on earth. Okay? So you have the total body, the total water mass on earth, we have water on earth. Okay? So we have, you see that this water is in the stream, in a brook, in a river, in an ocean, in a lake, in a spring. This water on earth, the water on earth is distributed, isn't it? But then we want to find out how is the water in the body distributed. Water geographically on earth is distributed in streams, in brooks, in rivers, in lakes, in oceans, and whatever, what of you. But in the body, how is it distributed? Can we still remember the breakthrough that we mentioned yesterday about Theodor Schwann and Martha Schneiden, that they were able to describe the cell, isn't it? And so it changed everything. And now, so we had the cell, and so we have the combination of cells, us tissues and organs and other things. So one thing which I mentioned yesterday, that everything that occurs inside or outside the cell, as however you are, if something is either happening inside the cell or outside the cell. So the water in your body is either inside the cell or outside the cell. Isn't it? Water in your body is either inside the cell or what? And so when it is inside the cell, we say it's what? Intracellular. Okay? When water is inside the cell, we say what? It's intracellular. Okay? And when it is outside the cell, we say what? Extracellular. It's what? Extracellular. And so 2/3 in adults, 2/3 of the total body water is found inside the cell, and 1/3 is found where? Outside the cell. Okay? So two-thirds of the total body water is found inside the cell, and one-third is found where? Outside the cell. So two-thirds of 42 is what? 28 liters. And one-third is what? 14 liters. So we are assuming that for someone who is 70 kg and having 50% of the total of his body weight made of water, two-thirds of it is found inside the cell, and one-third where? Outside. Okay? Of the cell. In adults. In adults. And the one in my app, there's a question I asked there and I answered. I think I'll remember. So in infants and newborns is the reverse. Two-thirds is outside and one-third is inside. Okay? Two-thirds is outside and one-third is what? It's inside. And I think this question I'm about asking, I think I asked it last 2 years in an exam. Okay, I asked it last 2 years in an exam. Why are infants more vulnerable to develop dehydration? Okay, I think in my app I asked it and I answered it. So why are infants more vulnerable to dehydration? Shishiba is saying, so can you please repeat how the units are changing from kilogram to liter? Oh, beautiful. That's quite great. So we assume that 1 kilogram is equivalent to 1 cubic millimeter or to 1 liter. Okay, that's good. So it's an assumption, okay, because we assume that 1 kilogram is equivalent to 1 liter. You understand? So it's asking why the units are changing from kilogram to liters. You understand? Yeah, but I think that assumption is valid even in chemistry. Yeah. No. If I ask him to calculate, no. Okay, so I was saying that there's a question I asked: why are infants and children more susceptible to developing what? Dehydration. Okay, the first thing you have to first of all state is that what? You have two-thirds of your water outside. So two-thirds of your water is what? Extracellular. Imagine that already. So if that's why you see children when they vomit or they have diarrhea, immediately it's shown in their body. Isn't it? A child who has a vomit or has diarrhea, he almost immediately, that's why it's always severe with them. You understand? Because more of the water is what? It's outside. And so they vomit. So infants are more vulnerable. So what is the reason? The first reason is what? The ECF to the ICF ratio is higher than in adults. The ECF to ICF ratio is higher than in adults. Okay, Roger says, it starts with Lazarus. Lazarus says infants are vulnerable to dehydration because they have less water in the body. But that may not be true, so to speak, even though there are factors that affect. Okay, another question. Factors that affect total body water. Just put that as an assignment, so to speak. Factors that affect total body water. Now, I can use the factors for you, but then you got to body weight, age, sex, gender. No, this was gender, sex. Sex. Okay. Exercise, pregnancy. Okay. So I'm listing factors. Let's now expand on them. How do this affect it? So then what are the factors that affect total body water? I've mentioned age, I've mentioned sex, I've mentioned body fat, I've also mentioned pregnancy. I've also mentioned what? Exercise. Okay. Lazarus is asking what is ECF and ICF. Okay. Lazarus, where is sleeping? Okay. ECF is what? Extracellular fluid. Then ICF is intracellular fluid. Okay. Okay. Lazarus, I'm sure you've gotten me right. Okay. And so that I don't forget, we are talking about the reasons why infants and children are more liable to develop what? Um, Dehydration. Victor is asking why is there a ratio difference in ICF, ECF? I don't know what your question means. Are you asking why you have two-thirds in the ICF or one-third in the ECF? That's how it is distributed. You understand? Except you're asking me why is your leg down. You understand? That's how the fluid is distributed. But if I don't know if I understood your question right, but please maybe can you rephrase your question? Okay. Victor, can you rephrase your question? Okay, why is there a ratio difference in the ICF to ECF in infants? Uh, that's what I'm answering now. Your question, please. Maybe let's just allow me to finish my explanation. If the answer doesn't come out in the explanation, then you can rephrase and ask again. So we said first, the ECF to ICF ratio in the infant is higher than in the adult, isn't it? What does it mean? It just means that one more fluid, we have less fluid in the ICF, isn't it? Okay. Okay. May you explain more on the ratio difference? Okay. Now I get the picture. Now this other person has made the equation a little bit clearer. Now we said the ECF difference. So it's just arithmetic, isn't it? So we have a ratio, ECF to the ICF ratio is higher in infants than in adults. What does it mean? It means what? In infants you have less fluid in the ICF than in adults, isn't it? So because for ratio, once the denominator is small, the ratio is greater, isn't it? Yes. Isn't it? Or you didn't pass one in mathematics? Hmm? Yes, once the denominator is smaller, that is what? Yeah, you have a greater rate, isn't it? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll come to that. Let me finish. %, I think Ken is asking what is the average percentage of water infants? I think it's 80%. Okay. If I'm not mistaken, please that's just let me just check. I think, yeah. Okay, 70 to 83%. Okay, so but average was 80%. Okay, average is 80%. That is very important. Kenny, that's a good question. So it averages what? 80%, and I like the way you ask the question. What is the average? Okay, what is the average? So it's not a fixed figure. It's just I will just take about 70 to 83. So it's about what? The average is what? 80%. Okay, it averages what? 80%. And then from this 80%, two-thirds of it is outside. Can you imagine? Okay, remember when you vomit, when you have diarrhea, it's the ECF that is going out because it's outside the cell. Do you understand? It's outside the cell. Once you vomit, Once you vomit, Musengu is that was not a bad guess. Okay, but then the average is 80%. So once you vomit, what is going out is what? The ECF. When you are urinating is the ECF. When you are sweating is the ECF. While the ICF is where? Inside the cell.
So, does it mean, like in the blood, you find white blood cells, red blood cells, and plasma? So, does it mean the plasma is also the placenta?
Yeah, we are coming to it, but that is the extracellular. I was trying to answer this question and we continue. Sometimes I teach like a jerk. Just started with things. Pick from there and pick from there. Okay, so the question which we're answering was what? Why infants and children are more vulnerable to develop what? Dehydration. And the first, what was the first answer? So they have a greater ECF to ICF ratio, okay, than in adults. And what is the second one? The kidneys are less able to retain water. Remember, they are still developing, so their kidneys are not yet well developed, isn't it? So the kidneys are less able to retain water. Okay. Kidneys are less able to retain water. And the third point, the insensible water loss is greater than in adults. We'll come to that later on. The insensible water loss. The insensible water loss. The insensible water loss is greater than in adults. I will definitely ask you questions from this total, from this body fluid. I have just one question in that app again. There's a question I wrote there. Write short note on total body water decomposition of body fluid. 10 marks. Okay, so we are looking at the total body water. So we say it's divided into what? The intracellular and what? The extracellular fluid. Okay. Follow me through, please. Now, we said it's either this water is inside the cell or what? Outside the cell. When it's inside the cell, it says what? Intracellular. When it's outside, it's what? Extracellular. And when it's outside, it is either inside the blood vessel or outside the blood vessel. Okay? So when it's outside the cell, it can be outside the cell in the blood vessel or what? Outside the blood vessel. So extracellular fluid is further divided into what? Intravascular and what? Extravascular. Extravascular fluid. What did I tell you about the word vascular? Blood vessels. Brian has answered a very intelligent question here. Why doesn't osmosis balance ICF and ECF? That's a very intelligent question, and we'll cover it before the topic ends. Okay, we'll come to movement of fluid. Okay, fluid shift across the capillaries. Okay, that's a very important question. Okay, but before we get to that point, I have to tell you about osmosis, tonicity, osmolarity. You understand? And so these are forces that influence the movement of fluid. So I've got to tell you this. Okay. So we said the extracellular fluid is further divided into what? The intravascular and what? The extravascular. Okay? And so for the intravascular, one quarter of the ECF is there and 3/4 is extravascular. Okay, 1/4 of the ECF. Remember we said if this individual has 42 liters, 2/3 is intravascular, is intracellular, that is 28, and what? 1/3, which is 14, is what? Extracellular. Okay? From these 14 liters, 1/4 of it is intravascular, and 3/4 is what? Extravascular. Okay, so if you take 1/4 of 14, you have what? 3.5. Okay? So, what is the name of the fluid that is intravascular? Plasma. Okay. So the name of the fluid that is intravascular, the name of the fluid that is intravascular is what? Is plasma. Okay. And the name of the fluid that is extravascular is called what? Interstitial cell. Interstitial fluid, sorry. Interstitial fluid. Interstitial fluid. Okay. So the intravascular fluid is what? Plasma. And the extravascular fluid is what? Interstitial fluid. Inter means what? In between. Okay? In between the cells. Okay? In between the cells. We call it what? Interstitial fluid. Okay? And it's about, we said it's 3/4. Okay? Another name for the interstitial, and this interstitial fluid is made of the tissue fluid and what we call the transcellular fluid. Okay? So we have the interstitial fluid is made of what? The The tissue fluid and what? The transcellular fluid. The tissue fluid and the transcellular fluid. So we're talking about what? Body fluids, right? And say you say the body fluid is made up of what? It's subdivided into what? The intracellular fluid and what? Extracellular fluid. And the extracellular fluid is further divided into what? The intravascular and the extravascular. And we say the intravascular is plasma and the extravascular is what? Interstitial fluid. And this interstitial fluid is further subdivided, so to speak, into what? The tissue fluid and what? The transcellular fluid. Okay? And so another name for the transcellular fluid is what? Fluid in spatial spaces. Fluid in spatial spaces. Fluid in what? Spatial spaces. Okay, fluid in spatial spaces. And so what are these fluids in spatial spaces? We have the cerebrospinal fluid, CFF. Okay. So this fluid is found in the canals of the brain and the spinal cord. So we have what? The cerebrospinal fluid. We also have the ocular fluid in the eyes, the ocular fluid. Ocular fluid in the eye. We have the synovial or the synovial fluid in the joints. We have the peritoneal fluid. Of the peritoneal fluid. We have the pleural fluid. Your class is supposed to end at 11, right? Is it 11? So you have the peritoneal fluid, and you have the pleural fluid in the lung. You have the pleural fluid in the lung. Then you have the pleura, pleura, Pleura. Then you have the pericardial fluid. The pericardial fluid. Huh? The pericardial cavity. The pericardial fluid. Okay. So the last thing we'll look at before we close is sorry, there's the last thing we'll look at. Okay, functions of the total body water. So can the transcendental fluid fall under the ECF? Actually, it's actually under the ECF actually. Then bright. After ocular fluid, so we have the peritoneal fluid. We have the peritoneal fluid. We have the pericardial fluid. We have the pleural fluid. We have the synovial fluid. Lymph is also part of the ECF. Okay. So in any case. So this is what we've done today, so we'll be able to continue in the next class, but in the next class I won't be slow as I am today. It can take 2 hours just to teach one bit. Okay. Any questions, please? Please tell those who are not connected to the class that the result of the day. Okay? It always shows. It always shows. It always shows. Okay? So if we don't have any questions, we would end here.